What's up, party people? We're back with round two with Rahul. Rahul, how are you doing today?
Very good, Sunny.
Awesome.
Uh,
I
it's
had at
quite
least
and
three.
sunny. It's quite sunny here in New York, the
Oh,
frozen
are you
tundra
back
of New
in
York.
are, are you in New York? I think the last time we talked, I thought you were in India.
No, yeah, I mean, I was in India, but I've been traveling back and forth uh,
Oh, wow.
between
Okay.
India, Istanbul, Miami, and now New York. So just in the past 1 week, had a little bit of a hectic travel schedule.
Yeah, travel can take a lot out of you. I know last maybe 2, 3 years. I mean, right now I've slowed down quite a bit, but I was traveling almost every 2 weeks, and yeah, it definitely takes a toll, especially when you're going to the other side of the world and back. Hey, Rahul, I wanted to thank you once again for that last interview. I had about at least 2 or 3 people ping me about it and tell me that they watched it, and they said that they really enjoyed it, and they were just intrigued by what you're working on. So thanks again, and thank you for coming back for round two. I know the last one was a bit tight, and so I had a bunch of follow-up questions I wanted to hit you up with, and here we are. Okay, cool. So in the last call, Rahul, so by the way, I'll put a link to the last interview for people who are looking for maybe context, so I don't have to get Rahul to repeat himself, too much, but we can maybe give people a bit of a primer. So you mentioned, so you're building. Actually, do you want to maybe give people the one-liner on your company, just so once again they have a bit of context in case they haven't watched the last one, and then I can dive into my questions.
Sure. So thanks again, Sunny, for having me, and uh, a warm welcome to all the viewers. So I lead a startup called Live 150, where we are focused on providing personalized guidance, which is holistic and dynamic, to help improve health. So, for example, let's say anybody has diabetes, or they have cardiovascular concerns, or even if you just want to lose weight or build muscle. The challenge is we still have to hack our way to figuring out what works to improve our health, right? So what would reverse my diabetes? What would control my sugar? Like, I have a lot of monitors and devices which help me track history, that I can see my spike, or I can see how much I weigh, or I can see how well I slept. But I don't really have guidance which tells me, hey, Rahul, do this, or Sunny, do X or Y, that will help you improve your health. So it will help you build muscle, or help you lose weight, or address your diabetes, or whatever it is, right? So we provide that sort of personalized, holistic, and dynamic guidance, because it's dynamic because things change every day, right? We sleep differently, we eat things differently, so on and so forth. And it's a dynamic set across nutrition, activity, mindfulness, and sleep. So those are the four pillars where we give personalized guidance on, and these are interlinked and
Say it one
dynamic.
more time. Say it one more time. The four. Just mention it one more time. So those
So
are
it's
because those are important, right? Like that's what people care about. One more
spot
time.
on. I mean, these are therapeutics today are still symptomatic treatments. They are not curative in nature. So the curative elements are still across nutrition, which is what we eat. It is across activity, which is how do we stay active, what workouts do we do, so on and so forth. So, for example, for older people now, there's this whole movement around lifting weights. So, activity, right, is the second one. Third is mindfulness. So, we have to manage our stress levels. Stress directly impacts inflammation. And that is why we need to really focus on stress. And lastly, which is probably one of the most important building blocks, is sleep. So I like to call it the NAMS framework: nutrition, activity, mindfulness, and sleep.
I love that. I love how you simplified it. And when you say it that way, it doesn't feel as overwhelming, and it feels, I mean, those are things that my mom has been telling me since I was a kid, right? So maybe she was right all along. Oh my God, I have so many questions. And all four of those things are near and dear to my heart. As I'm getting older, I also realize that I can't just, go on autopilot like I was when I was a kid and everything will just work out. No. Um, Definite recognition that nutrition is key. I've cleaned up my diet quite a bit. Sleep, oh my goodness, without it, I used to say, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Wow, no, more like I'll die if I don't sleep type of thing. Yeah, so sleep is critical. Lifting weights and exercising, can't talk enough about that. And then the idea of like mindfulness and meditation and but you know what's striking about these four things that you talk about is that they're essentially all like, would you agree with the statement that our body is the most intelligent pharmacy the universe has ever created? Because it almost feels like you have this worldview that we have the capacity to heal ourselves if we just get out of our own way, no? Because all those four things, it's not like, oh, inject yourself with a bunch of steroids or drugs or whatever. It's all just sleep more, eat better, like exercise. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not just that our body, the human body still continues to amaze me every day, right? For example, something as simple, I mean, you're hearing people say that they're down with the flu off late, and you'll see that people who are down with the flu, or when we are down with the flu, um, we tend to sleep a lot more, right? We tend not to eat as much. And now the research is showing that when you actually don't eat as much, or you go into autophagy, basically it helps you improve your health quicker, right? When we go into sleep mode, a hibernate mode, that actually helps us recover faster. So the human body does this automatically, and it's just astounding how dynamic and how well designed our being is, right? So I think in addition to the human body being exceptional from a design perspective, there are also these other themes which have now started taking prominence. So, for example, we talk about food is medicine, right? So it's not just about having a great body, but it's also making sure that we nourish that body with the right tools and nutrients, right? So the human body then performs even better. I mean, we see if we eat high fat foods, well, there are things that go wrong, right? If you eat high sugar foods, the things that go wrong. So food is medicine, again, supports the human body. Similarly, activity, right?
Yeah, sorry, keep
Yeah,
going, keep
go
going.
ahead.
I don't want to interrupt you. No, well, okay, I gotta ask you something. So I doubt my mom and dad are watching right now, but let's just say by chance they are. Indian, right? Indian diet, diabetic, insulin, well, not insulin, but they're taking like the medicine. They have this worldview that it's the medicine that's going to eventually solve all of their problems. And I'm telling them, Mom, Dad, look into this thing called fasting. I mean, your religion's been talking about it since the beginning of time. I mean, just read about the science. And I recently did a 4-day fast, Rahul, and I had just learned about this idea of autophagy and how when you don't feed yourself for a couple of days, your body starts to eat away at these like bad cells and the fat and everything. And I was blown away by how much younger I felt, how alive I felt. But like for these people who are stuck in this old paradigm that, oh, if I just take enough medicine, I'll be okay, versus this other paradigm, which is, no, strengthen yourself from the inside out by eating healthy, by sleeping, by exercising. How do you get people to make that shift? Because it's not an easy one, right? It's much easier to pop a pill than it is to go lift weights.
Yeah. So I think that's a great question, Sunny. So what's happened is, and you're calling out an observation that we've made across the generations. So what's happened is, our parents definitely thought that, I'll go to the doctor, give me a pill, and they'll fix me. Our generation is very much of the mindset where we are saying, I just don't want to go to the doctor, right? I want to stay out of the medical system. I want to take care of myself, whatever it is, right? The generation after us is actually even more sensitive to this space, because they are saying, actually, if I fall sick, that's a sign of failure, which is beyond. So you are seeing them sharing a lot more. Even our generation, we are seeing, we're using a lot much more trackers. We are a lot much more aware when it comes to healthy eating, healthy sleep, healthy habits, so on and so forth. But at the sense of why is this, so I think the mindset, there's definitely been a mindset change over the generations. And we are seeing that translate into people trying to take control of their health. So previously, especially in our parent generation, nothing would ever happen if it was not reimbursed by insurance, right? So What's happened since, if you notice, when you start adding up all the sales for these activity trackers, Apple Watches, Fitbits, Pelotons, diet apps, you name it, right? You are starting to look at a market where consumers are spending out of pocket an amount in excess of $300 billion to control
Wow.
their health.
Hmm.
And it seems like people have forgotten that there's this huge, fast growing emerging market that reflects that mindset change that you talked about, because now the
Interesting.
people want to take control of their health, and they want to make sure that they stay out of the sick care system. Because unfortunately, we in the world of healthcare, I always say, like, the world of healthcare is broken. Why? Because first of all, it's not about health, it's all about sickness. And secondly, there's very little care in the world of healthcare. So there you go, the word healthcare itself is a misnomer, and we are seeing people take control of their health for those reasons,
Hey,
and they're
Rahul,
paying cash. Yeah.
have you read The Singularity is Near or any of Raymond Kurzweil's books? Do
Yeah.
you know who I'm referring to? Okay.
Yep.
So in that book, if I'm not mistaken, I forget if it was him or Aubrey de Grey or someone, but a long time ago, I read this idea that those four things you mentioned, including, let's say, vitamins and eating healthy and sleeping, those are the things that will help us essentially slow down the aging process. Then there will come a time where biotech will supposedly emerge and be able to not just slow down, but stop the aging process. And then eventually we'll reach this promised land where nanotech will help us almost like reverse the aging process, where I'll be able to sit at the bottom of my pool for 4 hours and not stress about it just because these nanobots will keep me healthy from the inside out. How much of that do you prescribe to? Are you, and by the way, I love the 150 framing. That got me really reinvigorated and inspired about wanting to live forever because it seems achievable. Like living forever just seems a bit nonsensical, but this idea that, hey, if we get to 150, there's a good chance we can get to escape velocity. I love that. But can you kind of lay out, where are we on that journey? Are you more focused on that first part, and then do you see yourself maybe shifting gears to these second parts where it's not just about monitoring and analysis and doing the things that we can to slow it down, but also to stop? I mean, does any of what I'm saying make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think the three components that you laid out are spot on, right? One is the therapeutic. So if we add up all the innovations that are happening around, whether it's pacemakers, whether it's CRISPR-based genetic editing, whether it's so if we start looking at the impact on lifespan, that element. So I'm very specifically talking about the impact on lifespan. We start seeing people potentially live to 130, right?
Just
Now,
by slowing down the aging
no,
process,
no,
you're
I'm just
saying?
talking about the therapeutic
The
innovations,
therapeutics, got it.
right?
Wow, that gets us to
Now, when you
130.
when you our belief is that as therapeutic innovations, and which is why I said it increases lifespan. But what's important for people is when you hear people say, I don't want to live to 150. Well, why do they say that? They say that because they think that, okay, I'll have lifespan, but my health span, where my healthy being is actually much shorter. And you see this, that in the US, for example, people have more than one chronic condition, about three chronic conditions at the age of 63, right? So there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of, it's not a pleasant, you know, next few years, right? Because of cardiovascular, diabetes, cancers, I mean, all these things. So the thing is, therapeutic innovations can enhance lifespan, but these lifestyle based innovations across nutrition, activity, mindfulness, and sleep can improve health span, and then add another component on top of the 130 years. So the generation which is born today, just with the therapeutics, would probably live to 120, right? And with the focus on nutrition, activity, mindfulness, and sleep, eating right, working out right, they're having the right mindfulness regime, having the right sleep patterns. I think if we start adhering to those, then we are going to get to 150. And you're right, at 150, that's when internal repair mechanisms start coming in. And I call it, the reason I named it Live 150 is because we believe that 150 is what we call escape velocity, right? At that point, can you technically live infinitely, or not die? I
Yeah,
think
I
that
mean
I
that
think that's
idea is
that's really
so. so crazy, but it's like I think not even 0.0001% of the population even I think most people, if they even hear the idea of living forever, they'll probably just think we're crazy because it's not an intuitive idea, right? Like the idea that a chronological year surpasses or passes and your physiological age essentially doesn't progress that same 1 year is just like such a wild idea, but I'm here for it, and I love it. So okay, you mentioned the healthcare system or the sick care system as you call it. So you mentioned essentially that the current system profits from sick people, right? So how does your company's business model essentially like fundamentally break this cycle, right? So that that you can have a path to profitability and sustainability, because while there's this feel good live forever type of vibe, but at the end of the day you also have to build a sustainable business that can serve these people, right? So how do you I don't know, reconcile those two worlds?
So yeah, I think, I mean, how would you think about it? I mean, how are you personally? Because I think I noticed this tension, right? That it almost sounds like a wild idea, living forever, right? And
Yeah,
and again, I feel it's also ingrained in the fact that we're saying that, oh, you know what, my health span may not be that great. So we are not saying we will live, and experience immortality. But I think it sets the stage where these innovations can take us up to a certain level. So if you actually look at life expectancy just over the past, let's say, 200 years, right? Not even that long. Humans have been around for tens of thousands of years, as we've seen. 200 years ago, the average lifespan was less than 40. That's not that long ago,
that's wild to think, no?
right?
200,
And now
just
you think about it,
200.
it's almost doubled. So what's happened in the past 150, I would say, not even 200 years? I mean, there was penicillin, there were vaccines, there were, all these therapeutics. So lifespan has gone up, but the health span has struggled, right? And that's where the opportunity is. So it's not a question just of immortality and living longer, but it's also making sure that we have really nice, active lives. So wouldn't we want to live longer if I had the same energy levels, I had the same flexibility, if I had the same mental acumen, if I had the same, hearing power, seeing power, all those things. So if we try and influence those aspects which comprise health span, then I think it changes the game.
But once again, how do you build a profitable business around this model, right? Like the reason that the current healthcare system, in my view, has modeled itself as a sick care system is because it's highly profitable. If you fix somebody of their illness, well, they're no longer a recurring customer, and if you want that MRR or whatever you want to call it, you gotta keep them sick and get them to the next stage and keep them buying, right? And I have an addiction to my asthma medicine. I'm trying to swim my way through it and whatnot, but they got me. They got me. So how do you break that paradigm? Because now all of a sudden you're moving from a model of um I get sick and then I go to the doctor and then they give me some pill to address the symptom, to really addressing the root cause of illness, right? Of diabetes and all these things that are killing people. But again, people have a like a gut kind of reaction where they don't talk to me. I don't need parenting, like type of thing. I don't need to hear that I need to work out. So how do you flip it? Are you gamifying this stuff? I mean, I love the idea that you're integrating all these sensors into one brain, if you will, and then you're kind of presenting it in a platter that's intriguing and engaging and whatnot. But talk through a little bit about how you're thinking about this.
Yeah, so I think there are two questions here. One is, how do we make this profitable? Secondly, because profits are important so that we can continue to invest and make an impact to the community, right, and to our health. Because if we lose money, it doesn't help us deliver a great service to consumers. So that's number one. So there's a business model question here, and then the second is a behavioral change question, right? So it's more about, okay, how are we, or as you said, whether are we going to gamify, how are we going to drive behavioral change so that it's not overwhelming, right? So I'm going to kind of
Yeah, and that it's
crystallize.
fun and that they enjoy the process. So they don't
Exactly,
feel like it's
exactly,
someone
exactly,
nagging them, but instead it's somebody like kind of pulling their best self out of them type of thing. Yeah, like how do you,
exactly.
not an easy task.
Yep. And so to come to the first one, I think I've already pointed out that the mindset is changing. Consumers are willing to spend monies, whether on your Oura Ring, your Whoop band, your Fitbit, your Apple, they're
100%,
spending cash
100%.
without being reimbursed to take control of their health. We
Good
already
point.
spend for dietitians, we spend for gym memberships, we spend, we are spending a lot of money when we, as I said, over $300 billion to just take control of our health. So our view is, if we change the game a little bit from sick care. So sick care is about, so when we talk about, for example, a knee replacement, it's a $10,000 one time spend, and it works over a million people, and that's how these companies make money, right? Our view is, we are changing the economics. So if we start looking at the Apple Watch, the diet apps, so on and so forth, we're changing the economics where we want to do micro payments, which are, let's say, $20 a month. That's what we're seeing. People are okay spending $20 a month, but then you have 100 million people willing to spend that kind of money. So the economics change, which help build a business model, because it's a low cost, high volume, and that's why reach is really important. And then we build an entire network. We learn from people. I mean, you're seeing this in the world of social media. You're seeing this across the spectrum, where micro payments, but over large volumes, lead to potentially a greater impact. Right. So that's the business model question. Now, the second question you asked is, how do we make it fun? How do we drive behavioral change so that it's not overwhelming? Right. So absolutely, we're gamifying it. We're putting incentives in place. And I also call it the portion control. So what we do is, we learn from consumers' habits. So for example, I will see, as you're logging, you take pictures of your food, or you talk to Maya, who's our care coordinator, and you say, hey, you know what, Maya, I just walked 30 minutes, right? So we learn what each person's doing, and we then do cohort analysis, which says, okay, how is this helping people like you? Right? So that we can then identify whether it's a particular food, whether it's a particular activity, whether it's a particular sleep pattern. Like, we actually use evidence. We collect evidence to then turn around and scale that impact across a community.
That's
Right? And we do
fascinating.
that using a bunch of gamification incentives we put into place, points, so on and so forth. And there's personal nudges. We have put Maya there so that you have some sort of an accountability buddy. So it's fun. We don't talk, and we make sure it's positive in nature. It's not like, hey, Sonny, if you don't walk, then your sugar is going to go up and you're going to die in 10 days or whatever. That's not the message. That's not the tone we want. That's not the message we want. We want to make it fun. I'm going to say,
Mm.
Sonny, dude, last time you walked 30 minutes, like, your energy was through the roof. You were more productive, you were sleeping better. And guess what? I'm seeing that with your friends and family. How about we have a competition? Add your wife to this, or add your friends to it, right? And so there are social components, there are point-based things, there are incentives that we are building out. And I think this is the holy grail. Behavioral change is the holy grail. I don't think
This
anybody's
is
cracked it, but I think we are running a bunch of different experiments uh, to figure out what are the personalized nudges that will drive Sunny to make a change,
have you
and
read the
how do we
book?
do that
eh,
within the construct of what you already do. So I
Have
do
you read the
portion
book?
control.
Have you read The Hooked?
Yeah,
Right? What a brilliant book.
yeah. Hooked is a great. It's a great book because you want to create a hook. I mean, that's the basic premise.
Yeah. So you're using the randomization and all these like things that he teaches in there to build this. Okay. And by the way, like I could do like 10 interviews with you. I don't even touch my prepared questions. But I did have one that I wanted to ask you. So you said last time you spoke with, or sorry, you worked with Clay Christensen, right? Who taught you about, I think, this idea of market overshooting. So I was just curious, which specific incumbents in the longevity space, are you disrupting, and how are they overserving their customers today?
Yeah. So Clay, I owe a lot to Clay. I mean, he changed the way I think in terms of how do you create and craft disruptive opportunities, right? So one
Hmm.
is you have overshoots. So for example, somebody's, they come up with a product and they start adding more and more frills or lots of things to it, but people are not willing to pay excess. So you see this in the world of airlines where fancy meals, and but most of the population is just cares about getting from one point to another point. They don't need fancy reservation systems, so on and so forth. So on the top end you may have Continental, at the bottom you may have Southwest or JetBlue, right? And then you start innovating and you start, the lower player comes in. And we have seen this in the world of automotive. So, we saw this with GM and Toyota and Honda. We have seen this in the world of electronics. So we've seen this with Intel and then AMD coming in with a, cheaper, slower chip. So from a health perspective, I I don't think we are really in overshoot, right? Because I haven't heard anybody say I don't want more health. Like
Hmm.
nobody ever says I don't want more health, right? So
Hmm.
from a disruptive lens, we are not about the classical overshoot where we are coming in, with a less kind of quality product. But what we are doing is we are changing what I call the basis of competition. So while the current players are all focused on sickness, we are focused on good health or wellness. We are focused on curative, they are focused on symptomatic treatments.
Raul, did you go to Harvard?
Yes, I did.
You did, right? I got a question for you. So Descartes, is he the guy that led us down this path of this potentially flawed medical worldview of how, we're just all symptom driven? It's like, oh, you have a headache, here's a pill. Oh, but then that pill creates three other problems. um was it Descartes? Is that the guy that like threw us off our kind of, I don't know, like understanding of what it means to be human? Because I honestly cannot look. If I got into a car accident, there's probably no better place to be than somewhere in North America, right? If it's like an acute injury or my leg is broken and I need help, sign me up. But I find when it comes to disease, or as Deepak Chopra calls it, dis-ease, um, I feel like we've got it backwards. Yeah. I feel like when I read things about yoga and like kind of, other things like Chinese, whatever, it's just when the far further back you go, it almost feels like they had a grip on what it meant. But then I kind of juxtapose that with the fact that they died when they were 40. So maybe they didn't. But how do you wrestle with that idea around what happened? Like, why? How did we end up in this mess?
No, I think spot on. I think because of the pressures of life, I think the focus on productivity, work, all that has actually taken away from our holistic balance.
Hmm.
Um, and for example, yoga. I mean, I'm just I took to yoga really late, even though it's a misnomer that just because you're Indian you know yoga, right? It doesn't. It's like
Yeah.
saying one of my great grandfathers or whatever, somebody in my lineage wrote the Kama Sutra. It's like you know. But yoga, I mean, I'm just amazed. Yeah, like right now, one of the top CGM players, the diabetes guys, they said, oh, after you eat, if you walk for 15 minutes, you know, there's it decreases your sugar spike and it helps you, live longer, right? Well, in yoga, there's an actual word which was coined 4,000 years ago, which is called Shatapavali, which means 100 steps after food. So 4,000 years ago, these guys figured it out, right? I mean, you look at balance. Now we are talking about balance as old age people. There's a lot. They're very prone to falls, right? Yoga
Mm-hmm,
is all
mm-hmm.
about opening up the hips, and I mean, it's astounding. When I go through some back pain or something, sign me up for yoga. Like I'm like, wow, how did these people figure these things out 4,000 or 5,000 years ago? Not just around activity, but also around nutrition, right? And what's happened is the past, I would say, 100 years, we have actually bastardized a lot of the learnings,
Hmm.
right? So what's happened is we are eating a lot much more from packets. We are using, it's all driven by productivity. It's driven by the incentive of, the incentive of profits is actually hurting the consumer at one level, right? And
Did
that's
you
what, and we are seeing that, right?
But did you feel that I mean, let's put the all the negativity. I mean, there's so many like fears around AI, job loss, it's going to kill us all, this and that, which I don't know. I tend to not buy into as much. Maybe I should, but I I can't help but feel that can AI be an answer to some of this? Like, given that it's this like almost infinite intelligent being, right? Like it has this ability to now go into the past and look at data and, you know, and make these like decisions. So did you feel that I mean, obviously AI is a big part of the company you're building, but talk maybe, and by the way, we should probably bring this interview to an end. I've already overshot by the time we had allotted, but I just find it so fascinating. And I think our audience does too. But can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I mean, we are big believers in AI because AI is about training data, right? It's all about the historical data that we can mine in real time. So we are actually building an AI first company, right? So as I laid out the evidence layer, where I'm collecting information on people like you, we also have a research layer. So we have 30 million medical articles. Every article that's in PubMed, every current research, clinical trial, everything that's going on in real time gets analyzed to then figure out, well, what would work for you for nutrition, activity, mindfulness, and sleep. What happens is when you go to a consultant or you go to an expert, their knowledge is pretty much frozen. 95% of their knowledge is basically frozen at the time they graduate. So they don't really, they'll do some tune up courses, but they don't really change the basic thought process that they have. Using AI, current your ability to leverage current knowledge goes up exponentially, and that's what we do. So we use an evidence layer, we use a research layer, and it's all packaged with AI. So we are also using intelligence to figure out, well, what would work for Sunny, what will work for Rahul, right? So for example, I may work better by just collecting points. You may drive behavioral change by doing social competitions, right? So we actually package these nudges using AI because we understand the psychographics, we understand the person, and then we can target that into your experience. And are we there? We are moving towards that vision. I mean, our vision is to help people make a tangible difference to their health, an improvement to their health. And so AI becomes a really powerful tool to help us do that.
Amazing, amazing. Well, Rahul, we got to do a part three, buddy. Let's maybe help me land the plane. I see we have about 20 some people logged in here. Thank you all for checking in. Yeah, as usual, your enthusiasm is contagious. It's electric. I love these conversations. But Rahul, if people want to, I don't know, potentially become a customer, partner with you, invest in you, if they want to get in touch with you, what do they need to do? How do they get in contact with Rahul?
Sure. I mean, you can go to our website and drop us a message. We'll respond. It's live150.ai, or you can drop me an email. It's my first name, rahul.mehendale, first name dot last name at live150.ai. So rahul.mehendale at live150.ai. And yeah, we are, like every entrepreneur, there are two things that we focus on. One is sales, and the second is raising capital, right? So on both of those, we are active. We are actually going to do a seed round. So if there's interest, drop me a message. If longevity interests you, if this interests you at a personal level, you have feedback on the app, go ahead, download the app, and would love to hear from you.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody that doesn't want to live healthier and longer. And for those like few people that push back and are like, "Oh, I think death is a good thing." It's like, dude, where are you coming from? Like, you say that when you're on your deathbed. I doubt it. Everyone's gonna want more life.
I
Um,
actually, if I may just say in closing, right? I think you
yeah,
bring up a good point because everybody says, "Oh, I'm going to die anyway." My
yeah.
point is not about you're going to die, and which is why I keep emphasizing health span. What happens is our poor health actually loads people we care about and multiple people, right? So it creates pressure on our spouses, on our partners, on our kids, on our friends, because unfortunately, when somebody's got to take care of us, right? Because
Yep. Yep.
unfortunately, we can, whether it's Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, diabetes, cardiovascular health, menopause. I mean, we all need support, and this is not about whether you are going to die, but it's also more importantly about, hey, this is what's more responsible for us to the people we love, so that we don't create a huge load on them. So the framing is not just about our own health, but it's also, this helps people who we directly love.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, these are all like just some of my favorite topics. And I said I've maybe about a year or two ago, I really started taking health more seriously, and it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. Yeah, like I find when I do my early waking up thing and hit the gym and go swimming and sauna and cold plunge and get my yoga in and do all those things and do my intermittent fasting and get my meditation in, and and eat healthy and not junk food. This morning I woke up to my 1.5-year-old with a mouthful of Skittles. He found his sister's Skittle box and he was just having the time of his life. But candy's tasty. It's hard to say no, but it's okay, Rahul, thank you so much for your time. Thank you everybody for checking in, and and hopefully we can do like a part 3 again soon. And with that, well, I'll bring this one to an end. So until next time, everyone, bye-bye.
Live longer, live better, live fully.
Amen.
Live 150. There we go.
Yeah,
Thanks.
baby.